GSM is different from UMTS, how UMTS is different from LTE, and so on. So here we say system architecture evolution. So this system architecture evolution is nothing but the 3GPP standard on which the LTE architecture works. So here you will be able to see your GRAN, that is the GPRS or GSM or Edge RAN. Here you have the UTRAN for UMTS, and you have the evolved RAN for your LTE network. So again, you have your MME UPE, you have the SAE, that is the system architecture evolution gateway, you have your PDN, you have PCRF, you have HSS. So what each thing does? HSS is nothing but the home subscriber server. When we are migrating to 3G and 4G, everything is based on IP. Then we have the HSS also, which is going to be the basic, which is going to provide the basic HLR services. And this is going to communicate to other, I mean to say the EPC or whatever it is, through the S interfaces. In general, I refer as S interfaces, but it could be different because between each and every node, we are mentioning it with a different interface notation. Then this MME is nothing but the mobility management entity. This is going to take care of the user plane and other things which are related to the packet core. And you have a gateway, and this gateway is going to be the gateway which is going to connect your MME to the packet data network for packet core switching and other things. We will see that further when we move on. So here you have EPC plus eUtron forming the SAE architecture. So here it is your EPC, and you have your eUtron. You have your eUtron here. So what exactly this MME does? It is the control node for LTE. It is involved in paging, BRR activation and deactivation, authenticating the user with HSS, provides control plane function for mobility between LTE and 2G, 3G networks, NAS termination. So we will see one by one. So this is going to be the control node for LTE. So we can literally map it along to your main MSC. So it's going to take care of the paging of the subscriber. It is going to make the BRR to be activated or deactivated and other normal functions. So it is going to provide the authentication with the HSS, which is similar to the MSC communicating to the HLR in GSM to get the authentication. And it provides a control plane function for mobility between LTE and 2G, 3G networks. So here we could arrive to a conclusion that this is how this LTE network is going to communicate to other 2G and 3G networks. That means what? This LTE is more sophisticated, but it is able to access any other network because of its sophisticated architecture. Then we have the NAS termination. That is, we will see what is NAS in other slides, but to be highlighted, it is the stratum between the user equipment and MME and ULE roaming restrictions. So this mobility management entity, this is going to take care of the user plane entity as well as the control plane. It is going to take care of the user equipment from the roaming restrictions. It is going to take care of the non-access stratum. Non-access stratum is nothing but the communication between your user equipment to the other network or the core network. And you have the serving gateway. So whenever we talk about a gateway, we need a gateway in case, as we discussed before, we need a gateway whenever we are trying to communicate between different components. So obviously we have a serving gateway that routes and forwards the user data. It takes care of the traffic between the PDN gateway and the 2G and 3G. So this EPC altogether forms the main components, and it provides all the functionalities to make the LTE network to be able to communicate to the outside world. When I say outside world, it could be a 2G network, it could be a 2.5, it could be a 3G network. So to have this MME and PDN to be working, we need a gateway. That is, this gateway takes care of the traffic between the PDN gateway and the outer world. Then what is PDN gateway? So this PDN gateway is going to provide the connectivity between the user equipment to the external packet data networks. So this PDN gateway is the main component which is going to be involved in packet data access, and especially when we talk about UE to external packet data networks, here we need a gateway which will be in sync with the internal and external components of the architecture. That's why we have this gateway included. So this PDG is going to secure the data transmission with a UE connected to the APC over an untrusted non-3GPP access. So when we talk about this 3GPP LTE architecture, everything, this complete LTE architecture, this EPC is going to take care of the 4G LTE. I mean, it forms the 4G LTE components. But when it has to communicate to the outer world, we need this particular gateway, which is going to act as the gateway to communicate to the external world. So this is how this EPC plus evolved RAN, or else we could say the EPC plus EUTRON forms the LTE architecture. That is, and also since we say this 4G LTE is able to communicate through other external networks, the network could be of non-3GPP or it could be of 3GPP. So to enable these kind of different components or different access to different networks, we need this PDN ACI gateway. So this is how it works, and here we have the PCRF. So PCRF is nothing but policy and charging rules function. Basically, this PCRF is going to play a major role in CDR, that is the charging, the billing, how it is communicated in case of the PDN gateway and other things. But to be highlighted, the basic difference we could see here in the case of LTE is that we have eNodeBs and we have EPCs. So this is what we saw now. Then here we have the GSM family. So initially, as per the statistics, we could say GSM operates on 40 kbps with 2G subscribers of the figure 3.3 billion subscribers. So the first call was made in 1991. It's just going to talk about the subscriber statistics from 2G to 4G. It's just an informatory. It's not going to say anything related to the technical components. So the first GSM call was made in 1991 and then the GPRS in 2000. So altogether it forms the 2.5G. Then you have 3G. 3G, the estimation is around 297 millions of subscribers as of now. And it uses the WCDMA access method with 384 kbps. And the Edge was in 2003. Edge is nothing but the enhanced, next to when we talk about Edge, we could say it is not completely 3G, but it could be 2.75G, because when it is completely into UMTS and LTE, then only we will be able to say that it is a complete 3G, 4G network. So this works on the basis of HSPA with 55 millions of subscribers on use, and HSPA 14.4 Mbps. And you have HSPA evolved with a Slater data rate, that is speed 28/40 Mbps. And currently, according to the statistics, we are expecting to have 24 to 25 millions of subscribers in the year 2014. So this is the GSM family, but we could see, or we could say that the base derivative, if we are very clear with all the GSM components and the GSM architecture, it would be easy that we could map the UMTS architecture with respect to their functionalities and also the LTE architecture with respect to their functionalities, provided they have different components, different interfaces, and obviously different protocol stacks. So LTE in 2009 was calculated as OFDMA technology with 50/100 Mbps. Then moving further, here the networking technologies, I mean the outline of all the three networking technologies ends here. We will be seeing now the protocol stacks. So here we have OSI model, SS7 and SIGTRON. We will see one by one in general. So what is the OSI model? We all know that it is a very base model, the open standard, open system interface or the open standard interface by which all the telephony works. So you can see the protocol mapping of OSI model, SS7 based and SIGTRON. So here what happens is like you have your OSI model with all the layers, that is physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation and application. Just a tip, you can remember all these things by remembering this, like please do not take stupid person's advice. Then you will have your physical, data, network, that is N, T for transport, S for session, P for presentation and A for application. So this is how all the 7 layers work. So just to keep it in memory, you can remember, please do not take stupid person's advice. So it will be easy to remember. Then you have SS7 based node. So what is this SS7? SS7 is nothing but the common channel signaling, which we used to call as CCS. Later it was transformed to be CCS7 and we used to call as SS7. So this SS7 is going to be the, I'm mapping this SS7 based node with respect to this OSI model. So as we know what each and every layer in our OSI model does, exactly we need to map it with respect to this SS7. So this SS7 based node will have MTP1, MTP2 and MTP3, which are nothing but the message transfer part that plays the role of physical and data link in the case of OSI model. So you have your MTP, that is a message transfer part. It is going to take care of signaling data, error-free transmission and also the routing. So here you have the basic components MTP level 1, level 2 and level 3. Then you have your TUP, that is the telephony user part, that is for normal telephony. And you have your TCAP. TCAP is nothing but the transaction capabilities application part that is going to connect and retrieve information out of databases. So obviously these, you will be having several layers along with these when you go further to SIGTRON. But basically the derivative would be OSI model, because this is going to take care of all the applications, from the Ethernet cabling to the application and the routing. Everything is embedded within the OSI model, and that is the reason I am keeping OSI model as the base and I am mapping it along with the SS7. So we have TUP, TCAP and ISUP SCP. So as we saw what is TUP, now comes TCAP. TCAP is nothing as transaction capabilities application part. It connects and retrieves information out of databases. And you have the ISUP, ISDN user part for ISDN network. You have the SCP, that is a signaling connection control part. It is going to take care of the global title translation and also used to carry the TCAP user part. So this global title translation is nothing but whenever you take care of the routing within the network, you have to follow some kind of global transition to make the routing easier. When I say easier, to be compatible within the network components or network architecture. It is an internal translation which happens in the case of routing alone. So that is what this SCCP takes care of. And also this SCCP is going to take and transmit these TCAP messages. So we need to have the physical connectivity, we need to have the message transfer, we need to have a error-free transmission, we need to access the telephony access, we need to access the databases, we need to establish the signaling, we need to establish the connection, we need to do the routing. So when you see each and every level, every SS7 node in detail, you will be able to understand or we will be able to understand how exactly this signaling and the communication is carried out. Basically, this SS7 works on the principle of STPs and SSPs, that is signaling transfer points and signaling points, and also signaling control points, wherein you will be having a destination address, you will be having a originating address with a header, and depending on the OPC and the DPCs, your SS7 network is going to transmit the messages and it is going to route. So that is how it happens. So when we move further to SIGTRON, SIGTRON is nothing but it is a IP based, it is a derivative from SS7. So you have a signaling gateway here because this SS7 based node is not a IP node, IP based. So as we discussed previously, we need a gateway. So we have a signaling gateway which is going to communicate these CCS messages, that is the common channel signaling messages of SSP, SS7 to IP. So you have a signaling gateway. This is going to do the job of making the CCS messages to IP based. So here you have your M3UA. You could see the same, I mean to say almost the same, but the functionalities and the other things differs. So here you have MTP1, 2, 3, which is going to be here as M3UA. M3UA is nothing but the adaptation layer, which is going to do the job of all the three MTP1, 2, and 3. And the basic transition, what happens here in the case of SIGTRON is with respect to the transport layer. So here in the transport layer, you will be able to see SCTP. Here, this SCTP is nothing but Stream Control Transmission Protocol, which is a transport layer protocol. It plays a role like TCP and UDP. So TCP is nothing but your transmission control protocol. UDP is nothing but your user datagram protocol. So altogether, it functions as SCTP, and it is the major transition in the case of IP based, apart from this M3UA. And also, apart from this, you will be having several layers or several protocol docs, which is INAP, CAML, etc., depending on the network. So these are basically intelligent network related protocols, but just to show how the mapping is done, I have just shown the SCTP transition alone. So why we need to talk about this SS7 and SIGTRON when we are talking about the networking architectures and protocol testing? Because as we were seeing, each and every network, the communication is done via protocols. We need to understand what exactly a protocol stack is, what exactly your network is trying to communicate, how the network is trying to communicate, how the protocol to protocol communication happens, how the interfaces are connected to each other, and so on. So I started with the OSI model, SS7 and SIGTRON, just to have a better understanding how the normal SS7 and the IP based systems are working or in use. And just for our information, we also have to note that this SIGTRON is capable of signaling, communicating for both Wi-Fi, I mean to say wireless, and normal networks. So moving further, we will be seeing the protocol stacks for everything. So first, starting with GSM protocol architecture, you will be able to see the mobile station. This is going to be your tower. You will be having your base transceiver station, that is nothing but the BTS, and you have your BSC, and here comes your MSC. So obviously, here you have your interfaces. These interfaces are trying to communicate between each other via some kind of protocol. So here you will be able to see, literally, not in depth, but you will be able to see the same protocols like RRM, LabDM, and here you will be able to see BTSM, wherein here it becomes SCCP, and here SCCP, and so on. So how exactly it happens is like, you have your, each and every component is going to talk to the other component via the interfaces, and here you are going to see how they are really going to talk. So this GSM protocol architecture, I'm just giving the overview of a simple protocol architecture. It's not going to explain you all the protocols in detail or about the user plane and control plane details, but it's just the mapping, how this GSM protocol architecture is done. So you have your LabDM. LabDM is nothing but your link access protocol. It is going to do the data link. Say for example, it is going to take care of this OSI model's data link activities. So that is the reason I have given this OSI model, just to have a simple understanding, like these derivatives are from here, so that we will be able to understand the functionalities in a better way. And you have your RRM. RRM is nothing but your resource management, radio resource management. It is going to take care of all the radio resources which are coming under. So you have your mobile station, you have your tower, you have your BTS, and obviously they are going to interrelated with each other through a connectivity, and they are going to take care of the radio BRS services via RRM. And moving further, here you have your BSC, base station controller, and it is going to have your the same LabDM and MTP. But here only when you see MTP plays a role, because here only this BSC is going to take care of these message transfer, this message transmission, and it is going to transmit it to its higher hierarchy or whatever it is through a kind of transport layer or through a kind of transport mechanism for which we need the SCCP. And when we talk about this BSS map and BTSM and all those things, they are going to be the appropriate mobile application part. They are going to take care of their particular BSC or BTS depending on their protocol services. But literally speaking, this is how the mapping is going to take care. So we can virtually imagine how many protocols would be inside a network, how many protocols will be able to communicate with each and every component. So that is altogether a different scenario. But just to quote an example how this mapping is done, I have just picked this slide to show how exactly the, and you have your mobility management and you have your connection management. So this is going to be, finally you have your MSC connected to the finally you have your mobile station, that is going to be your SIM, and the mobile equipment is going to talk to the MSC, that is through the MM and CM. That is the connection management and mobility management is going to take care of establishing the call. It is going to take care of the routing. It is going to take care of the global translation and other things. So this is a simple mapping, and as we discussed previously, here we have the SCCP, which takes care of the global title translation, and it takes care of the TCAP user part. So obviously here you will be able to see you have your MTP and you have your SCCP, and it is going to map with BSS map, that is going to communicate between, this is the intercommunication, and then you are going to carry out the MM and CM. So this is how the mapping takes care. So this is going to be an outline, because we really cannot incorporate all the protocols into a slide and go on with what are the different protocols, how the mapping is done. But I'm just giving an outline, that's it. So this is with respect to the 2.5 or 2G networks. When we further move on to 3G, we have a different protocol structure. We are going to view with respect to the 3G networks. So they are divided into access stratum and non-access stratum. So what is stratum basically? Stratum is nothing but a way of grouping protocols, one aspect of services provided by one or several. So you are going to group the protocols with respect to one services, but you are trying to communicate to different networks or several entities. Then what is access stratum? So this access stratum, again, it contains the protocol handling activities between the UE and access network. So here you have the access stratum capabilities, or this access stratum will only talk about the protocol handling activities between your user equipment and your own access network, wherein it is not going to take care of any core network services. So that is access stratum. And what is non-access stratum? Non-access stratum contains protocol handling between UE and core network. So here comes a different terminology. NAS, that is the non-access stratum. Why? Because here you are just mapping. When you talk about the mobile station and the MSC, you are just mapping with respect to the CM and MM, but wherein you are not having NAS or non access stratum or non-access stratum. But this derivative comes into picture only when we are talking about the 3G protocol structure. So you have your non-access, NAS protocols, you have your access stratum protocols. We will see one by one. So this UMTS protocol architecture, obviously it also has different protocol stacks for user and control plane. So user plane is going to be for transport of user data, wherein control plane is going to be for signaling. Then you have in the user plane, what exactly happens is like you have a circuit switched domain data within bit pipes. I mean to say it's going to take care of normal circuit switching activities, normal call activities and other things. The transportation is going to take in place. Wherein in the control plane you are going to take care of only the signaling, how the signaling can be established, how the OPCs and DPCs are routed and other things are taken care in the control plane. So you have, in the case of control plane, you have the circuit switched domain. It is the SS7 based, obviously for a normal GSM network how we had. The same way we have SS7 based in core network. And for PS domain we have IP based. And for radio access network we have Neutron protocols. So as we saw previously, in UMTS you have your Neutron, and this Neutron is going to talk to your core network. So here comes. So here you have the same. You have a physical layer, you have the MAC, you have the RLC, and here goes the RRC. So again, you could be able to literally map all these functionalities, like how this MTP 1, 2, 3, how this physical data link is going to act, how this M3P is going, M3UA is going to act, or here you could see how this LabDM and other things have the functionalities. So typically speaking, it is going to do the same functionalities of a normal physical and a data link layer, but it is altogether going to be IP based. So here you have your physical, you have your media access control, and you have the RLC. Why we always talk about the RLC and or RC in the case of UMTS? Because obviously we have all the BTS under the control. When we say BTS, it is nothing but the home node Bs or node Bs in UMTS. So we have this RRC. This RRC is going to take care of the signaling. It is going to take care of the signaling for the radio BRS. So you have your mobility management, you have your connection management, you have your signaling management, everything which is transparent to the Neutron through the RRC. But wherein in the case of GSM, this RRC, RLC didn't play a major role because your M3UA or MTP 123 were able to do the same functionality because the spectral bandwidth is not so high than these. The architecture is not sophisticated when you compare the architecture of a GSM and UMTS. So here you have the RRC, which is going to take care of all the radio BRS or all the signaling and the mobility management services. And here you will be able to see a new component, PDCP. This PDCP is nothing but Packet Data Convergence Protocol. So this, we will see what is this PDCP in detail. But here, this is how you have a circuit, you have a CS domain, you have a PS domain. How exactly the mapping happens, I'm just giving the outline. So here you have your RNC and the CM. So when we say this UMTS is having a which is going to talk to the core network, obviously there used to be a protocol structure between the radio network controller and the core network. I mean, we need a gateway again to make this RNC and core network communicate between each other. So you have the signaling gateway that is going to be a media gateway, we generally say, but several media gateways can be combined and they can even form a switching center. So here you have the RNC, you have the MSS. So this MSS is going to take care of all the MSCs which are under the core network control. So again, you will be, this is a diagrammatic representation of different networks. I mean to say, I'm just mentioning here how a ATM network works, how a Ethernet IP based works. It's just a outline. So here in the RNC, you will be able to find out a new protocol, which is nothing but the RANAP, wherein this SAALNNI, it is an AAL5 and ATM. They are very specific, very unique to the ATM network. So this AAL5 is nothing but the ATM adaptation layer 5, wherein SAAL is nothing but the signaling ATM adaptation layer. So along with a few other protocols like ACCF and other things, it establishes the network node interface in the case of a ATM network. So basically, we are not going to discuss all those things here in detail, but when you see the logical connectivity and the data link and other things, at least we will be able to map it in such a way that you have a Ethernet, you have a M3UA and other things. So since we are going to communicate, here you will be able to see SCCP. This SCCP is nothing but it is going to retrieve the information from the databases, and it is going to transmit all the TCAP messages. That is going to be the transport layer. So again, what happens is, like, when we are moving towards the IP based, as I said, there is a transition that you have a new transport layer, which is a new transport layer protocol, SCTP. Then this SCTP is going to communicate through your MSS with the SCTP of MSS. So this is how the protocol mapping is done. When you migrate from a normal SS7 signaling node, when a normal SS7 node to a SIGTRAN, you are able to see that you have a new component SCTP, which is nothing but a new transport layer, which is going to take care of all the enhanced activities while carrying the TCAP messages. So all the other functionalities of M3UA, MTP3, IP, SCTP, SCCP, everything remains same. Wherein we have RANUP. RANUP is nothing but the radio access network application part, because we are going to have the RNC communicated with MSS. So everything, when you say the E-neutron or the normal neutron, RNC plays a major role. So we have a separate protocol called radio access network application part, that is the RANUP protocol, which is going to take care of all the radio bearers, which is going to take care of all the handover activities, which is going to take care of all the intra-MSC and inter-MSC activities. Basically, this each and every protocol is going to be very vast and different when we see their functionalities and other things, wherein here we are just going to see how the mapping is done. So here you have the user plane protocol stacks. For a normal CS domain, you are able to see for a UE and neutron, that is going to, this forms your UMTS network. So here you have your WCDMA, and as usual we have the physical layer connectivity, we have the MAC, we have the RLC, and the interface is going to be UU. As we said, it's going to be between the user equipment and the E-node B or the node B and the RNC. So you have UU, and here when it is going to talk to a 3G MSC, you have the IU interface, and a normal GMSC is required whenever there is a communication between another different network. So we have the normal GMSC, and this is how the mapping is done. So when in the case of ATM networks, obviously we have the ATM and AAL2, those adaptation layers. But generally the mapping is done in such a way that here we are not going to see any more data link or MTP1, 2, 3 or whatever it is, because here everything is carried out in the case of radio link and radio access. That is how we are enhancing the network with the RNC controller. So obviously the data streams and other things are mapped against RLC and RRC. So this is a basic diagram how the CS protocol stacks are there in a UMTS network. And when you talk about the PS domain, so in the case of PS domain, we are going to have a new component which is going to be the PDCP. So this PDCP, as we mentioned before, it is a packet data convergence protocol that is going to do the basic activities of a GE RAN or a UT RAN by accessing the GGSN or SGSN of a normal GSM network. But in the case of LTE, in the case of UMTS, we were already known that we have a sophisticated system which is going to take care of these kind of PS activities, I mean PS domain activities. Then obviously the mapping is going to be against, you have the UE and UTRAN, the normal MAC to MAC, RLC to RLC. But in the case of packet data access, you need a different protocol to communicate between different layers. Then we have the PDCP. Then here we will be able to see some other protocols also like GTP, UDP and other things. So GTP is nothing but the GPRS tunneling protocol. UDP is nothing but user datagram protocol. Each and every protocol is different and unique, its own functionality, own specification, own terminology and other things. But here we really are not going to discuss about each and every protocol, but we are just going to see how the mapping is done. So here again I'm showing when it is going to be IP connectivity, IP to IP, how the protocol stack map is mapped. So you will be when it is all about your UE and UTRAN, you are not really bothered how the packet data is going to be transmitted. When your UTRAN is going to access the SGSN or GGSN, then only the packet data comes into picture. And that is the reason why we have the GTP or UDP or IP in this particular layers and not in these particular layers. So we will be able to understand the basic difference that when your network is getting enhanced, when your interfaces are going to different, depending upon the functionalities, you are going to have the protocols involved in that. You are going to have those protocols mapped against each other with respect to the different functionalities. So it's not that only this UMTS PS domain contains only these protocols. No, it is not like that. But just to give an outline, I'm just mapping against this. Apart from this, we will be having so many protocols in a telecom network. We will be having so many protocol communications. We will be able to see different interfaces communicating to different